Hey, welcome to the Plant Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Howard Jacobson. Before we get to today's show, a quick reminder that this podcast is free for everyone and supported by those who can afford it. So if you have found this podcast a useful companion during 2020 and you'd like to see it continue through 2021, I would invite you to go to plantyourself.com/gift if you are in a position where you have the means to support something that means something to you and hopefully you think is doing good in the world. You can use PayPal or Patreon. You can make a one-time contribution or become an ongoing, sustaining patron of the show. And if funds are too tight for you to show your appreciation in a monetary sense, you can still leave a review of the Plant Yourself podcast on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. That also helps us a great deal. All right, on to today's episode. Hey, welcome to the Plant Yourself podcast. Howard Jacobson here with the pre-Hurricane Florence edition. So very short intro, no outro. Just want to get the material out to you. Today's interview was with Gary Whitaker, who opened a plant-based gym in Oakland, California. He's an awesome guy, and I think you'll really enjoy the conversation. Two real quick announcements before we get to the interview. First, WellStart Health is starting a new cohort, a new 12-week program beginning of October. If you're interested, go to wellstarthealth.com/program where you can read all about it and apply. Second thing is, we have had so much fun with the coach training program, and the feedback has been so positive that we are offering it again in probably mid-October. If you're interested in that, just shoot me an email, hj@plantyourself.com, and I can tell you all about it. All right, so if all goes well, I'll see you in here next week. Hopefully having ridden out the storm and having everybody in this area be safe and well. Just one quick thought that eating well, taking care of ourselves, working out, being strong, being mentally fit are really good forms of prepping for any sort of natural or man-made disaster, whether expected or completely out of the blue. All right, I'll leave you with today's show while I go and board up some more doors and windows. So without further ado, Gary Whitaker, welcome to the Plant Yourself podcast.
Yo, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. I was so happy. I didn't know who you were, and then I started seeing you like popcorn shooting into my social media. Like you got a lot of attention for this beautiful thing you did recently. Can you just introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to?
Yeah, my name is Gary Whitaker. I am the owner and founder of Plant-Based Fitness. I've been on a plant-based diet for about 10 years, and I just enjoy seeing people healthy, and so that journey has, inspired me to, be able to bring change in a lot of people's lives, as well as my family and friends and different things like that. So, I finally got me a new space, and, it's kind of one of those things where if you follow your alignment, things just come to you.
Ah, beautiful. So what is Plant-Based Fitness? It's an actual location. It's a gym.
Yeah. So Plant-Based Fitness is an actual gym. It's over in the Oakland area, Oakland, California, right by the Lake Merritt.
Uh-huh.
And what we do is we do nutrition coaching. We do small group training, we do semi-private training, and we do personal training. And the main thing that we are is we're a transformation studio. So one of the things that I noticed about when I was in fitness myself, just like learning and transforming my own body, because I was about 260 at one point in time. I lost about 50 pounds. I gained the 50 pounds back because I went back to my old eating habits, and then I lost it again. And so over the total, I probably lost over 100 pounds. But one of the things that I noticed is that it wasn't a really big approach on plant-based nutrition and fitness. And so the only thing that I did was I just took those things that I found were missing and I created my own solution. And that was plant-based fitness.
So you were up to 260, and how long ago was that the first time you decided to lose 50 pounds?
That was probably about 2007.
Okay, so 11 years ago.
Yeah, that was about the time.
Uh-huh. So what did you do? Is that when you first went plant-based, or that was before?
So this is the thing. I didn't go plant-based at that time. But what I did start doing is I did start incorporating more vegetables and fruits into my diet. So
Okay.
I had this time where it was a guy, what's his name? John Biardi.
Okay.
One of my trainers, he was following him, and he's like a well-known nutrition guy or whatever, and he gave me his plan. And so I was following it, and it worked. It yielded me good results. It did have meat in it, and so during that time I was eating meat. But one thing I can say is I think it kind of prepped me because I was eating more vegetables and more fruit. So I was eating 5 servings of fruit, 5 servings of vegetables every day.
Uh-huh. Got it. So, I mean, that sounds like a very sustainable diet for a lot of people, but I'm wondering, it doesn't sound like that was transformation with a capital T for you.
No, it wasn't, because one of the things that I've learned about even all my studies in nutrition is that you got habits, and these habits and these old foods that people are used to eating. We oftentimes revert back to those things because it's what we're used to. You know what I mean? And so for me, I had a lot of things that I had to learn and educate myself on about food. And so it didn't create a long-term sustainable transformation for me.
Uh-huh. So, what were some of those things that, I mean, did you grow up in Oakland?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Oakland, California.
Okay, so you're still living in the bosom of the community that taught you about food.
Yeah.
Right. So what were some of the things, like, this, like, we can talk about, it's easy. Okay, have the vegetables instead of the meat, but what were sort of the cultural anchors that took the most energy to break free from?
So, well, I think for me and my journey, Howard, it was a little bit different because I'm the type of person that once I find the information, it's easier for me to break loose. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like, but I could say, as of now, just like people that I know that are transitioning, most of it has to deal with like soul food. You know what I mean? A lot of people are transitioning from soul food, the black eyed peas, the greens with the pork fat in them, the meat and the chicken and the turkey. And I think those are like the cultural anchors, and especially holidays.
Hmm.
Holidays are another example of cultural anchors to where people kind of like are stuck because they don't want to feel alienated from their family. And you know what I mean? Like, it's still things definitely in my community that uh, that are kind of like, unsolved. And it's like we're used to eating these bad foods over and over and over again. And all those bad foods leave a energy trail behind. And I think the biggest thing is like trying to get rid of that energy trail,
Hmm.
you know?
Say more. Say more. What does the energy trail look
Like,
like? And
okay, like I'll give you an example. Like, we already know that there's pesticides in foods, and we already know that there's antibiotics, and there's all type of different things, prescription drugs that they may feed the animals. And I really feel like that stuff has a larger impact than the actual meat itself. And I feel like a lot of times people are not addicted to the meat; they're usually addicted to the chemical substances that's added to the meat. You know
hmm.
what I mean? And if you look at it from this angle, like, most people are probably getting stuff straight from Tyson or all these other places that we know are using these chemicals and stuff to keep these animals alive. And I think the biggest thing for most people is it's hard to get off of those drugs. You know what I mean? And then food being a drug itself. You know?
Hmm.
So I think. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when you cleaned up, when you got to the place where you were off all those drugs, what was the difference in your energy that you felt and the people around you commented on?
Oh man, mainly it was like, when I woke up, I was working a second shift job. And one of the things that I noticed is like, no matter how much sleep I got, I would always feel tired. And so when I started switching my diet up, when I went plant-based, I noticed that in the morning when I woke up, I had energy. And a lot of people were like, "Man, your skin looks clearer." You know what I mean? And so like those are just like the things that you don't really notice that other
Uh-huh.
people notice besides the like on an outward appearance standpoint. But I did notice that I had way more energy, and for me, and I always say this for anybody that I help nowadays, I say I don't have to convince you. The only thing I got to do is show you how it feels. You know, and I think when you show people how it feels, it gives them their own internal perspective on what the benefits are.
Yeah, it's like this idea, like whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm feeling is like baseline. It's normal. I'm used to it.
Yeah,
And if like, I felt like if you could live for a day in my body or 10 minutes, like you would see the difference.
exactly. Yeah, and I think that's it. It's that's where it comes down to, like, cleansing out the channels and detoxing the body, and all that stuff, because our intestines are our second immune system. So if we have all these, think about it. The average person probably has never done a colon detox, and so that means that we probably got 20 to 30 years of matter inside of our intestines, and it has to leave some sort of trail or some sort of trace. You know?
Yeah, I just finished a 7-day water fast, and not to get too graphic, but that was 3 days ago. Today I eliminated for the first time, and boy, that stuff looked interesting.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, actually, the interesting thing is I'm on day 4 of a water fast right now.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, I'm on day 4, so I'm gonna go 7 days as well. So that's pretty interesting. And I'm also doing a colon cleanse at the same time. So I'm
Okay.
taking like this Mag 07, and I'm doing a colon cleanse. And you're absolutely right. It's different. It allows you to develop a different relationship with your body. And something that just happened was I just met my grandfather after 36 years. And my grandfather is actually a naturopathic doctor. He's a herbalist. He's all these different things that I'm studying to become. And the one thing that he enlightened me on, he was like, my grandpa's 83, and he was like, I told him about my protocol, what I'm gonna do, because I had got an abscess, and I had some cracked fillings and stuff like that in my mouth, and I'm working on restoring my enamel on my teeth.
Mhm.
And he told me, he was like, you know what? He was like, try it out, and then let me know how it goes. And so, I think one of those things too is a lot of things that we discover about our body comes from our own trial and error. Now, if you would have asked me 2 years ago would I ever do a water fast, I didn't really think it was possible. But the
Yeah,
necessity of me having that tooth pain pushed me to a different place mentally.
yeah, and like everyone wants to know, like, what's the latest study, what's the latest truth, and we ignore that we have a body to experiment on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, and I think that's your biggest ground of figuring out what you know. You know what I mean? Like you know based off of what you do. And the thing with me, and different people are in different realms, so don't think I'm recommending somebody that's on medication to start experimenting. However, at the end of the day, you got choices to make. You know what I mean? You could choose the medication, or you could choose something else, and that's a choice that we have as humans. You know what I mean? We
Yeah,
can choose which path we go down.
yeah. So I hope you don't mind me asking, but I'm really curious about, you just met your grandfather for the first time after 30 years?
Yeah, yeah. That
It
was
sounds like there's a story there.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you a little bit, but that will be a whole nother interview, because the thing is, I met my grandfather, and I talked to him for 3 hours, and in 3 hours, I found out so much about him that was really, really, he's a very interesting guy. He studied medicine in China. He studied medicine in Japan. He studied in India. It's so much stuff that I learned about him, man. Like, he was impressed with my knowledge on nutrition, and I told him, I was like, yeah, how they say the saying, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting that I could meet my grandfather after 36 years, and then all of a sudden we have similar interests. You know what
Uh-huh.
I mean? Like, and so, when I met him, I also met my dad's side of the family for the first time in 36 years. So that was a whole nother interesting piece.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I could tell you one thing, Howard. That was probably the greatest time of my life. You know what I mean? Like that. That was, as a man, that was probably one of the greatest memories that I'll never forget. And my grandpa, he was saying, he was like, I'm glad you reached out to me. And I can tell you the story on that. So basically, my aunt, who I was still in contact with. My grandma, which is my dad's mother, she died of colon cancer in 1999. Um, and I remember my grandma, but I don't really remember her. I remember talking to her a few times, but you know how you have those vivid memories of your grandma?
Yeah.
I didn't have those. But my aunt Eula, she would always keep in contact with my dad. And so we started like recently communicating like about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And so I would always talk to her on the phone. And then I found out that my family was having a family reunion. And so my family was having a family reunion, and last year I missed it. And so this year I was like, I'm not gonna miss it. And so I went out there, and it was a definitely an emotional point in my life. I probably cried the most that I've ever cried as an adult, and it was more tears of joy. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because like meeting my family, seeing how great they were, seeing how accomplished they were, seeing all the things that they were about, you know what I mean? Like it just made me feel like, wow, like this is a whole nother chapter of my life that I didn't know anything about. And the craziest thing is in that same weekend, I met my grandfather for the first time. And when I first met him, I immediately cried. Like I cried, you know what I mean? And it was just like, man, because for years and years I was telling people that my grandpa was dead, and so to
Is, so
finally
is,
meet my
is,
grand,
is that what you thought, or he just wasn't part of
yeah,
your life?
I didn't know because like the thing is my dad didn't do a good job of relaying history.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so for years I did think that because I thought my grandmother, I knew my grandmother was dead, so I just thought my grandpa was dead too because there was never any mention of them.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and so but luckily my aunt Eula had always kept in contact, so she knew, they always spoke every once in a while or whatever. And so I just asked her out the blue one day, and I was like, "Hey, is my grandpa still alive?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "For real?" And so I was like, "Hey, can you give me his number?" And so she was like, "Give me a day or so, and I'll find his number for you."
Uh-huh.
And so she gave me two numbers, and I called him up, and I was like, "Hey, I was like, is this, I called my grandpa. I was like, hey, are you such and such?" I was like, "Are you Herman Maiden?" He was like, "Yeah." And so I was like, "I think I might be your grandson." And I told him who my dad was, and he was like, "I think you're right." And, right there, that was an emotional moment for me right there because I was like, man, like after all these years, I thought my grandpa was dead. My grandpa is actually alive. And so I told him, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to be coming out to Louisiana to come see you. And I think we should meet up." And he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so I went out there and I saw him the one day of the family reunion, and then the next day on Sunday I went to go see him, and I just found out all this amazing stuff about him. It was just like it was overwhelming how much you just like all the stuff that he's done, all the stuff that he's accomplished, and so and he does it. He's just been doing his thing. He's been riding the wave, doing his thing on his own, and I aspire to be just like him.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like without consciously trying, you are.
Yeah, definitely, definitely,
Wow. I
definitely.
mean, the sense of like identity that must come with that.
Oh,
Like, I understand myself better from seeing myself in this historical context.
well, yeah. Well, and the one thing too is like one of the things, like I have one of my clients, and they always call me like a unicorn. They're like, "You the black unicorn." And then because like all the stuff that I'm into healing, I'm into natural health, I'm into exercise, fitness, nutrition, cooking, chefing, just the different, all the stuff that my energy has brought me to. That's what she called me, and then she heard that I told her the story of me meeting my grandpa, and she was like, the tale of the two. She was like, two black unicorns unite, and like I was like, that's true. You know what I mean? And so it allows me to understand me more. You know what I mean? Because now I know, like, whoa, like there's another person on this planet that's done everything that I want to do, and this is the biggest thing, Howard. I get to learn from them.
Hmm.
Like that's so huge. It's just it blows me away every time I think about it.
Right.
You know?
And probably, imagine, so he grew up, your family was from Louisiana
Yeah.
originally. Whereabouts?
Shreveport.
Oh, you know Josh Lajani?
Uh.
Oh, okay. No, he's in Shreveport. Right.
Oh.
Okay, Shreveport says other folks. My business partner, Josh, is from, the Bayou.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Cool.
But, if you talk about the soul food, the first two things you
Oh
mentioned
man.
were black-eyed peas and greens,
Yeah.
but like before soul food, like that was health food, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Your family probably has connections to when traditional rural black food was among the healthiest you could get.
Right, and that's the thing. The craziest part about it is that my family actually owned farmland, so they had, upwards to 100 acres of land in a period of time. And one of the stories that I always hear about my family is that they used to always call it going out into the country. And so they used to go out into the country, and the thing was that they always had to work. They had to work the land because you have to pick crops and weed and do all this type of stuff. So you are absolutely right, and that's why I don't look at soul food as bad, but I think when we got into the city life, you know what I mean, and we got disconnected from the food, I think that's what created those bad things. Because on both sides of my family, on my mom's side and on my dad's side, my mom's side was from Belzoni, Mississippi, and I remember talking to my great Uncle Fred, and I was asking him because I was like Uncle Fred, I was like, y'all didn't eat that much meat when you were younger, and he was like, no. He was like, we didn't eat that much meat when we were younger. He was like, we mostly ate fruits and vegetables and grains and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense. Because he was like, when we were sick, my grandma or my mom would go out into the yard and pick some stuff and and boil a tea and tell us to drink it. So in actuality, that those foods were amongst some of the healthiest things you could get because they were fresh off the farm. They were readily available with vitamins and nutrients. And it was just that point in time where I think we come into the microwave era where food started to change. And then you get more packaged foods, you get more chemical processed foods and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so in working with people from all different backgrounds and cultures, the commonality is 2 generations ago, if we ask our grandparents what they grew up on, they were eating healthy, unless they were rich people from New York City.
Right. Definitely.
Right.
Yep. That's the truth.
Yeah. So you did this transformation. You lost the 50 pounds once, regained it. The second time, what happened?
This was the thing. One of the things that happened during that process. So when I started off on my transformation, I was about 44% body fat. Ooh. And right now I'm at about 19% body fat. Uh-huh. And that was the biggest thing. The biggest thing, I was just like, I have formed an artist collective during that time. I moved back to California. So I lived in Wisconsin for 10 years. And I was eating bar food, cheese.
You got cheese in Wisconsin.
All the stuff that burgers from the bar and all the rest of that stuff, drinking beer. And when I got back out here, I had switched to like a vegan diet, but I was a junk food vegan. You know what I mean? And so I was still eating like the processed stuff because it said vegan. I was still eating it. And what happened was I was in the midst of this artist collective called The Hive. And I was devoting a lot of energy out, and I was big at that time. I got myself back up to like 230. And this last time I was just like, you know what? I was like, I'm tired of this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm tired of yo-yoing with my weight. I'm tired of feeling like this. You know what I mean? And so at that point in time, I decided to make a transition. I started working out. I started eating properly. And during that time, that was the last time that I lost the weight, and I was able to keep it off at that point in time.
So tell me, what were you up to in the Hive? Like, what was meaningful to you about that, and what were you doing?
Well, this was the thing. Like, for me, I've always been into like the arts. You know what I mean? Like, I've always been into like music creation, and I was a DJ at one point in time.
I saw that on one of your Facebook pages is DJ Rec Vegan.
Rec. Yeah. So I was always into like music and stuff like that. I even created a couple songs, and so I've always been into like the arts. I draw, what I mean? Like there's a whole bunch of host of things that I do, but I came up with a couple of friends, and I was like, hey, let's find a way to get paid off of what we love to do, because I have been reading books, and it's a quote that always stuck with me, and it says, if you do what it is you love to do, you never have to work a day in your life.
Right.
And that kind of inspired me. That inspired me to actually go on and try to live that. And so, what happened was I was about 27, 28, and my son was about to be born. So when I moved back from Wisconsin, I found out that me and my fiance at the time were pregnant. And what happened with that was my son was on his way. So, I had to think of some ways to support. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So we did a whole bunch of stuff. We had our own farm. We had a 70 by 40 plot of land, and we were farming on it. And we worked with another group called Spiral Gardens. And Spiral Gardens actually taught us how to grow food. You know what I mean? So what we would do is we would just go over there, and we would just help them with their land.
Uh-huh. And they is this in Oakland city limits?
Yeah. So that's it. That was in Berkeley,
okay,
in South Berkeley. And so what we would do is we would connect with them, and they would show us stuff, and basically we had a lot of success. But the one thing that it taught me that you have to have a common vision. You know what I mean? Like, and if you bring people together and you don't have a common vision, it's harder to keep things together. Mm-hmm. And so I love that experience because it taught me a lot about myself. And it was interesting because it was some magical stuff that was happening there. Like, like I was networking, I was bringing connections through. We were moving and shaking, and we actually had an event that we did called Rock and Soul. And in that event, we actually were profitable, which is crazy for our first event. And we have brought a bunch of like people that were like rock artists and soul artists together. We rented out a venue in downtown Oakland, and it was pretty cool. Everybody enjoyed it. But, that was a chapter of my life where I learned about myself in organization and dealing with people and stuff like that. So, yeah, that was pretty much the highs.
Gotcha. So you just opened a gym, right? Like a couple months ago?
Yeah. So May 15th was my soft launch. My grand opening was June 15th.
Gotcha.
So I'm
yeah, go ahead.
So I was saying, so I'm approaching roughly about three months, going on 3.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I come from a family of artists. Like my wife and both of my kids, I consider like artists. I don't really consider myself one in the same way. And I know that whatever they're doing art. And I'm curious how plant-based fitness is art for you.
Well, this is the thing. The way it's art for me is because when you think about art involves a transformation, right? And it involves evolution. Like, I'll give you an example. Going from a sketch to a finished piece. That's evolution. You know what I mean? And it's also a transformation. It's like you're taking something out of the ether, and you're putting it into your mind, and then you're putting it to paper, and then you're creating a finished product. Uh-huh. And the way it correlates is because fitness is like that too as well. And the way fitness is like that is because oftentimes people can't see their transformation before it happens. So at the end of the day, what I'm telling people, or what I'm selling people on, is an idea, because it's not tangible. You know what I mean? It's the idea that if you perform this, and this, that you will get this result. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and if you're a sketch artist, you've done it 100 times. You have confidence. But if you're trying to draw the art of your own life, all somebody has is you and your word.
Right. Exactly. And so the thing about that is the way it correlates is because now I've had a couple people in the beginning of my, before I even had my own business, I had the ability to transform a couple people. And these people, I've actually, knocked like 40 plus pounds off of them. And, that's like the size of a little baby, and so once I did that to a couple of people, I was like, okay, I got the formula now on how to do it. And not only just like knocking it off of them, we're talking about keeping it off of them. Because it's easy to, I always say, it's easy to lose weight, but it's hard to keep it off.
Uh-huh.
And so I had these people that I helped lose a little bit of weight, and they kept it off. And so then I was like, okay, what I'm doing is working. And so now I'm at the point right now, Howard, where anybody that comes to me, as long as they're serious, I'm almost sure that I can get them results. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. It's more of a partnership. The way I approach fitness is through a partnership. It's a 50-50 partnership. I do my part and you do your part. And through both of us both doing our part, we get amazing results.
So do people come to you and you go, you know what? They're not serious. Like, I can tell.
Well, and I do have those people, and I have to have a way of weeding those people out. And the one thing that I do is I just refer people to the people that might be best for them.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be like, oh, no, you ain't serious, so I can't mess with you. But I know the type of client that I work the best with. You know what I mean? Like, and that's one of the things too, as you evolve in life, is that you understand who you work well with. And it's like you don't try to fit, a square into a circle. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. and a lot of people receive strife because they get people that are not right for them. It's kind of like, for example, if I'm not a bodybuilding trainer, I'm not going to try to take on a bodybuilding client. You know what I mean? Because that's not my scope of practice. It's not my area of expertise. And so I would do better, and it would be a better experience for the customer if I gave them to a person that would be fit for them. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, but there's like, okay, there's different flavors, but there's also like someone comes to you and they say, I really want to do this. And you can see in their eyes, or you can hear, or you can intuit something like, no, this person's not serious.
Right. Well, yeah.
I'm curious because I face the same thing. I'm curious what you see. Or can you articulate, like, what are the signals that someone's not ready?
Well, I think one of the signals is like language. You know what I mean? Like, the one thing I notice is that all of the people that I dealt with that are serious, you don't have to convince them of anything. You know what I mean? Like, and I think when you have to convince somebody of something, it shows that they're not at a certain phase of readiness for change. You know how they got several phases of readiness for change. They got like pre-contemplation, contemplation, action, and then it's a couple other ones that I'm missing. But usually when people show up, they're usually in an action phase because it takes a lot for somebody to say, "Hey, I got a problem and I need a solution."
Uh-huh.
And for me, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I've ran across those people that I found out a month later that they weren't serious about what they said that they really wanted to do. And I had to find a way to, find that person, the right person. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's the biggest thing too, is just like being able to pass. You know what I mean? Like that's a big, that's like, a big thing.
It's not a blow to your ego to say,
no.
Yeah.
Well, because the reason why it's not a blow to my ego is because I already know that you know how it is when you reach a certain. I like always comparing martial art masters.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like when you go into a dojo, you're prepared to do whatever the Sifu is telling you to do. Like, you're not going to try to customize a plan and be like, okay, well, hey, guess what, Sifu? This is what I'm going to do, and this is what you're going to do. You know what I mean? Because the Sifu he's already reached that level to where the formula that he's done, he's perfected it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
it's also that you have to give something up in order to get something. And one of the easiest things, it's easy for someone to give you money. It's much harder for someone to let their ego be quiet.
Right. Well, and then I think too, one of the things that you learn about it is you understand how all money isn't good money. But because when one thing I learned is that when you're in the people business, you have to be mindful of the energy that you accept. You know what I mean? Because one of the biggest things is that you got this person and they're going to pay you a load of money and you're like, oh yes, that would be so nice. And then when you get it, you realize that they're not the type of person that you enjoy working with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And we go back to that quote again, and it says, if you do what it is you love to do, you never have to work a day in your life. And so then we have to also be mindful of reading energy in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if it feels good, usually it is good. And if it doesn't feel good in the beginning, then we have to be as practitioners, we have to be able to take a step back and be like, okay, wait, how am I entering this? You know what I mean? Like, am I entering it because I really feel like I can help this person, or am I entering it from a state of my ego?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I can't turn this thing down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because, well, if I take this person's money that I'm not really sure of, that'll keep me afloat and I'll be able to relax and do more, and it becomes a question of means and ends.
Right, exactly. And then what happens when you focus on means and ends is you get away from the passion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the thing is, one thing I learned about even training people and dealing with people and being in the people business is that I want to enjoy working with the people that I work with. And so if I don't feel like I'll enjoy working with that person, I won't take their money. And it's not even like, it's more of like a thing like, hey, I think that this person might be a better fit for you, but it doesn't fit with my program. And I've had people like, come to me. I've had people say, you know what? I haven't came to you, Gary, because I'm not ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect that. You know what I mean? Because like, for me, I'm in the results business. And so a lot of the things that I do are based off of results. And sometimes results don't always equal people's feeling well. You know what I mean? Because like sometimes you gotta tell people stuff that they need to hear, and not what they want to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we're changing people's lives, and when you're changing a person's life, it requires a certain level of sternness. You know what I mean? And I think we live in a society right now where a lot of people are used to the people not telling them the truth. You know what I mean?
Well, I see this a lot on Facebook groups that are supposedly dedicated to growth and transformation and achievement, that people go there looking for pity.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, one of the things for me, and it doesn't fit with everybody, but I've always respected the people that told me the truth. You know what I mean? Like, they told me what I needed to hear versus what I wanted to hear. And I think you hear it all the time, like how celebrities, they make a bunch of money and they say they have a bunch of yes men around them. And that's what it's comparable to. It's comparable to having a bunch of yes men around you. People, yes men and women, people that just agree with everything you say, and they're like, oh yeah, that's okay. It was that person's fault. You know what I mean? And it pulls you away from taking ownership of yourself.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me a little bit of, the book Living with a Seal.
I never read that.
Oh, this is Jesse Itzler, who's this, fabulously wealthy entrepreneur. I think he owns the Falcons, and he was like, his wife is the founder of Spanx. And he felt like, okay, he's incredibly successful. He's getting soft. So he invited Navy SEAL David Goggins to live in his house for a month. And the only deal David Goggins made was, you do everything I say.
Wow. Changed his life.
So, yeah, like, how many pull-ups am I going to do in the snow at 3 a.m? Okay.
Right.
Like, wait, no, we didn't discuss this. He says, yes, we did.
Yeah.
It was one rule.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing too, is like, one thing that I always respect about when I go in to learn from other teachers is I always respect that I'm there to learn. You know what I mean? Like I come in like a student. A student is ready. You've read the syllabus. you know who the teacher is because you probably researched them before you got to them. You know what I mean? And I think just coming in with an open mind, and one of the hardest things, and I think this may be ego based too, is coming in with a blank slate. You know what I mean? Like forgetting what you think you know, and allowing someone to teach you the philosophy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things. Though the people in my experience that have gotten the greatest results are the people that came in with a blank piece of paper.
Yeah. And I find that for myself, like while I'm a domain expert, I'm never an expert on the person that I'm helping. So that,
Right.
like, for me to be like the way I get better as a coach is to
Yeah.
be a blank slate for each person. Like, what motivates you?
Yeah.
What are your particular stumbling blocks? What's the language that's going to reach you?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I think also too that takes time. You know what I mean? Because in the beginning of a new relationship, everybody won't always reveal everything that you need to know. And so you also have to do a little bit of discovery. You know what I mean? You have to discover like, okay, hey, what is this that motivates people? And that brings me to another thing too. Like even in my training, I focus a lot on mindset. You know what I mean? Because I always say this: in order for you to have a new body, you need a new mind. And you cannot have an old body. You cannot have a new body with an old mind because what will happen is the way programming works is that your body will automatically revert back to the body that you had with the new mind or with the old mind. And I've seen this in action because I've helped people. I've helped a few people. I'm not gonna say any names. Lose 30 pounds in 6 weeks, and some of those people painted a picture of me that was like you would have thought they were dealing with a monster. And one of the things that I understood was I had to humble myself, and I was like, you know what, Gary, it's not about you. You know what I mean? Like that's that own person's personal journey. That's that own person's journey on that transformation, and what you're seeing had nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? You did what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know?
So what's the biggest mindset shift or the most important one that you think people need to make? Because if they're coming in with their 260 pound, 44% body fat body based on their mind, you can't just say, okay, change your mindset. Like what's one thing or a couple of things that you think are key?
Well, I think when I think about the key things, it's definitely not beating yourself down. And so in the environment that I'm in right now, as far as my gym, I don't tolerate any negative self-talk. So when people say I'm weak or I'm fat or I'm not strong or I can't or I don't tolerate that because I already know whenever you say the word I can't, it sends off a negative impulse through your body. And so you're programming yourself through affirmations of what you can and can't do. You know what I mean? And so whenever I hear people doing that, I usually create something that they don't want to do. So like one of the things I created is burpees. So, I would have people to be like, oh, look at my legs. I'm so fat. I'm so weak. And what happens is it's just a little nudge of programming. And the way I do it is because every time I hear them say it, I'm like, okay, you owe me 50 burpees. And burpees are the thing that if you do them, you get in a really good physical condition, but nobody wants to do them. You know what I mean? And so I have to make the result of you talking bad about yourself something that you don't want to do. So therefore you know that, hey, at least in here, you're not going to talk bad about yourself.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And then that's one mindset thing too, is I learned that. I think I was listening to Tony Robbins. And he was talking about negative self-talk. And he said, try this out. He was like, if you ever have a negative thought about yourself, you cannot end on a negative. You got to reverse that with a positive. And so I kind of been following that, and it's helped. It's helped a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like just them knowing that when they come to my environment, that's why I have this on my shirt. Can you see that?
Positive vibes only.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I always try to figure out ways to subliminally get people to think about stuff that they need to think about. You know what I mean? Like, and your energy attracts so much to you. So if we're thinking about mindset, if you coming in here and you're talking negative to yourself all the time, I don't see how you're going to get many results, and I don't see how you even going to last long doing what you're doing. Because I remember one time when I was doing some extensive training, and it was these stairs over by the lake. They're called the Cascade Stairs, and it's like maybe about 8 or 9 flights of stairs.
Uh-huh.
And I would always tell myself, I was like, I hate these stairs, and they would always kill me every time. And then you know what I told myself? I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm not gonna tell myself I hate these stairs, because anything you hate, you won't want to do.
Sure.
And so I was like, you know what? I love these stairs. And the moment that I told myself I love those stairs, the stairs got easier. The same thing with laundry, the same thing with washing dishes, the same thing with all the stuff. You know, and so I'm really big on mindset. That's one of the tips. Number two is just like the self-development. You know what I mean? Like, I send my clients speeches about health. I send my clients speeches about, like, affirmations. You know what I mean? Like, those are all things that help people power themselves through. But because it's always going to be a time where you feel like quitting something. And usually at that time where you feel like quitting is where your breakthrough is about to happen. And I've noticed that just time and time again in myself. So, another mindset tip is like mind affirmations and how you start your morning off. You know, it was a point in time where I was having people do like miracle morning, which is where you wake up, you do silence, you do affirmations, you do visualizations, you do exercise, you do writing, and then you do reading. And that could take 25 minutes. But that's a mindset tip right there, because it's going to automatically prepare you for your day.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm on your gym's Facebook page, and it says real strength, real power, real movement. What do you mean by each of those?
So one of the things that I thought about was I used to work at the YMCA for about 3 years. And it was even through my own personal experience. I remember being able to lift 300 pounds. And that was an anomaly for me at that point in time. I was like, wow, I could bench press 315. But the moment that I stopped doing it, I lost the ability to be able to bench press 315. And one of the things that I did that was differently with my own training is I started working with my own body weight. And I look at it like this: if you could hop on a lat pull down machine and you can lift all of the stacks of weights, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you hop up on a pull-up bar, and your body that weighs less than that whole stack is probably like about 300 pounds, but your body weighs less than that, and you cannot lift your whole body up. That's not real strength.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And so by me training people to work with their own body, I always say it like this: gymnasts are the ultimate athlete. They're flexible and they're strong. And I think once you become flexible, whenever you're not flexible, it means that you're weak in a certain area.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because most of the people that I know that are really, really strong, they're flexible as well. And so that's where the real strength comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And the real movement is just like, getting back to the like how babies move. You know what I mean? Like I remember one time I was giving my son a bath, right? And he was in the tub and he had his legs crossed, right? And he went like this and stretched his arms out and dived his head down in the water, and he was flat. And I was looking at myself as a grown man, and I was like, I would love to be able to do that.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And so like, and for me, what happened is like, as a guy, we don't really focus on flexibility. You know what I mean? It's rare that we do. And so I feel like I was cheated because I cheated myself because I never really took the time to focus on flexibility. I thought that was for the ladies. And
right. Well, if we go to the gym, we bulk up. we want to be able to walk around like we can barely clap our hands. Right.
Well, and that's the thing too. When I was doing all that bench pressing, I had shoulder and joint issues. I couldn't even go like this to touch my back.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of what crafted that real movement. You know what I mean, or that real strength.
Gotcha.
And then the real power is I look at it like this: if you could do a handstand and you can walk with a handstand, that's real power to me. You know what I mean? And so I've had people that couldn't do handstands, that never did a handstand in their life, be able to at least hold a wall assisted handstand. And for me, that's real power.
Gotcha.
You know, and so it's kind of like more of the thing that you seen was more of the exercise philosophy.
Uh-huh. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining, having talked to you and understanding your views on energy and transformation, that those are also metaphors for life.
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah. It's all, we always transform, we get a new set of cells every 7 years. We get new bone structure. You know what I mean? Like we go through different events in our life.
Right.
All of our life is similar to exercise.
Right. So where,
you know what I mean?
So what do you look? What are people looking for? What do you want to give people around real strength, real power, real movement that extends beyond the gym?
Well, the one thing I could say is that real strength could be you being able to forgive someone. You know what I mean? Like to me, and somebody told me this today. I was in the barbershop and we were having a talk, and I was telling them about repairing their relationship with my father. And one of the things the biggest thing that I did, and I did it for myself, and I didn't do it for anybody else, was I forgave my father for everything. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like my dad wasn't like a bad guy or anything like that, but you know what I mean? Like when you're younger and if your dad isn't present, you're like, oh, forget him. Like and the biggest thing that I did was I forgave him. And that's a translation for real power. Because when you can forgive somebody, you actually take your power back.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as like the real strength in life, you are always going to face obstacles. You know what I mean? And your real, sorry about that, the real power. I look at your real power as your resilience. You know what I mean? It's your ability to get knocked down and get back up. You know what I mean? Like when life throws something at you and it does knock you down, because it will, how do you respond to it? Do you retreat? Or do you go within yourself and you're like, hey, I need to get back up. Let me get back up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about the real movement aspect, is that just in my experience, and if I could tell you that this whole instance of me having a gym was kind of like a storybook, it really was. You know what I mean? Because all the stuff happened because me being able to move in the right time and being in the right place. Because when I first applied for this place, I didn't even think I was going to get it. I was like, my credit ain't the best. I was coming up with all these obstacles on why I couldn't do it. But the only thing that I did that was the biggest thing was I kept my movement going forward. You know what I mean? Like I kept putting myself in the right position.
Yeah.
And every time I put myself in the right position, I got a reward.
Uh-huh.
And the one time, because I was at another gym before, and I had to allow myself to see the bigger picture and be like, okay, hey, this is your time to get out of that cocoon, and this is your time to spread your wings. And so, movement is a metaphor for life, because we only have short windows of opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, you ever see that, like the time if you're running track, you could lose a race by what? A nose.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And so if you are in the proper movement and the proper alignment, then you are always in the place where you need to be.
Mm-hmm. And the caterpillar doesn't have to figure this out, right?
No.
Humans need real movement so we can figure out, like, this is, like, I can hear a lot of people, like, in my own mind, like many times in the past, I was like, who am I to ...
Right.
Who am I to become a butterfly?
Right. Exactly.
Right.
And I think too, when you have that thought process, you're not stepping into the true abundance. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like, especially with all the stuff going on around the planet, I'm still a firm believer that there is more abundance than there is strife.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think it's all about what you choose to wire your signals to. You know what I mean? Because
Uh-huh.
like if you read the newspaper every day and you watch the news on TV, if you pay attention to all those things, it'll definitely bog you down. But if you focus on doing the best that you could do in all your human interactions, I feel like that's where you activate your true power.
Right on. So before we let you go, you mentioned getting the gym, not having great credit. I just saw on Facebook a really beautiful post in which you talked about repaying your Kiva loan and thanking everyone who supported you. Can you talk a little bit about what Kiva is and how it helped you?
Yeah, so Kiva helped me out when I had a juice bar idea. I had a juice bar idea, and the idea for the juice bar was to, in the gym that I was in, it was for me to open up a juice bar inside that gym. One thing I got a loan for $10,000, and the one thing I realized that a juice bar definitely costs more than $10,000.
Uh huh.
And so I bought like a juicer. I got the inspector to come out. I did all this stuff, and then I was like, my money was running dry, so I was like, uh-oh. You know what I mean? Like that it didn't go as planned, but it
Uh-huh.
was a good learning lesson. And what I did was I still made sure that I repaid every bit of my loan, and it was like a crowdfunding thing to where, so first thing you gotta do is you gotta do seeding. And with seeding, you find people that support you. So basically, people that say, "Hey, I'm going to donate $25 to Gary because I believe in him."
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do the seed money, you got to get 16 seeders, and then you got to do. I think after that, you go into the market where everybody could donate to you.
Uh-huh.
And the craziest thing was the loan actually got funded. It was supposed to go for I think almost 2 months, and it got funded in 3 weeks. And that was crazy. You know what I mean? Like that was just crazy. And the reason why I like the Kiva loan is because it's definitely not a predatory loan.
Yeah.
It's a zero interest loan for up to $10,000. So if you have a business that can get you off the ground with $10,000, then that's definitely a good way to go, and it helped me out a lot.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And
and
yet you say
so
like it didn't like succeed, but you still managed to repay it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It didn't succeed, but I still managed to replay it because I definitely had a sense of not letting the people that supported me down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and for me, and that's why I made that post. I was like, hey, just to let you know, if I do need your help again and I do decide to do something bigger, you know what I mean? Like, hey, my credit is good with you. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I put that out there because I just wanted to let people know, like, I'm aware that you supported me, and I appreciate that with the utmost. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like those thoughts that you say, like, sometimes you do got to humble yourself, and you be like, wow, people actually believe in what I'm doing. And one of the most powerful things that I always say is that the way we tap into our true human power is when we start to believe in people. You know what I mean? Like, and I tell my son that I was like, I believe in you, and it may not mean nothing to him now, but I know when he gets older, he's gonna remember that. You know what I mean? And I think, as far as like whenever we're trying to do something, those people that support us and those people that believe in us, they mean a lot to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's,
And so
yeah, it sounds like the whole story of your journey has been creating this environment where people can build the muscle of believing in themselves.
yeah, that's
Right.
it.
So why would you
That
believe in someone who didn't believe in themselves?
it does. You can't do it. It doesn't work. And I think that's the biggest thing too. Is just like for me, my goal is not to have a client for 3 and 4 years.
Uh huh.
You know what I mean? My goal is for me to give you something that's gonna last you a lifetime. You know what I mean? And I don't even want any credit for it because at the end of the day, you did the hard work. If you happen to appreciate me for it, I'm thankful and I'm grateful. But at the end of the day, my goal, like I said, is to help people transform. And for me, Howard, I enjoy seeing people in good health. You know what I mean? It just comes from my heart. You know what I mean? It's who I am. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I could talk about crying and all the rest of that stuff, and it's just because who I am. You know, I'm definitely my emotions are a superpower to me.
Yeah.
You
No,
know what I
but
mean?
I was laughing because when you said that, like, I enjoy seeing people in good health. I understand you mean it in a very deep, profound way, but I just, if I just hear it in a totally superficial way, like, no, I want to be around like sick people,
Right.
like there's like the aesthetics of healthy
Yeah.
people. It's beautiful, it's sexy, it's lithe, it's
Yeah.
energizing, it's the arts, right? It's
Yeah.
sharing our expression.
It's everything that you want. You know what I mean? Because healthy people are loving people.
Hmm.
Healthy people are kind people. You know what I mean? Because then you gotta talk about this too. Because your health is more of, it's not just one area. You know what I mean? You're healthy in your spirit.
Yeah.
You're healthy in your mind. You're healthy in your body. So we just talk about that triangle, that trifecta. Once you get healthy, it allows you to connect with those other areas of your life.
Beautiful.
Yep.
So for people who want to find out more about you and about the gym, where can they go?
Cool. So they can always visit my website. My website is www.plantbfitness.com. They can find me on Instagram, and I like to post a lot of my transformation photos on Instagram. So my name is Plant, Plant, the letter B, fit, and then the number one.
Plant B Fitness.
Um,
Okay.
Correct. And then they can also, if they're in the area, if they're in the Oakland, California area, they can always come by the gym, or set up an appointment to do orientation. And the address to the gym is 2706 Park Boulevard, Oakland, California, 94606.
Okay. 94606. That's all going in the show notes. Gary, I'm
Yep.
so glad our paths crossed. I'm like smiling ear to ear, and I'm so inspired by your hard-won wisdom.
Yeah.
Like you're saying things that I've heard a lot, but the energy behind them is like, I believe
Yeah.
you when you say them. They're not like platitudes from a book. So I really appreciate
Right.
the infusion.
Well, I definitely appreciate you for reaching out too again, Howard. But one of the things I can say is you were a part of that wave. You know what I mean? Once Veg News magazine kind of featured me,
Uh-huh.
it was just and that came out of the blue. That just came, like, I didn't reach out for that. I didn't do anything for that. It just came out of the blue, and I was just blown away. Like this whole past 6 months, if I like, I feel like I need to create a documentary about it or some sort of movie about it, because it's just a testament to, like, when you put out the energy that you want to receive, you get it back. And I just want to thank you for even reaching out to me. You know what I mean? To gather, just to talk with me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, you've got a story worth telling. It's inspiring to me. I know it's going to be inspiring to lots of my listeners, and
Definitely.
points of light, man. You figure out how to do it in Oakland, people will figure out all over the place, and
Yeah.
then one day we can, like, read the news and be happy.
Well, yeah, and I think too, and that's another thing too. We need more health hubs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One is not enough. You know what I mean? We need a lot of people focusing on healing. We need a lot of people focusing on how to get people's minds right. We need a lot of people focusing on how to get people connected back to their bodies.
Right.
And one thing I always say, and I'm not going to talk too much after this, but I love watching babies. And I feel like babies are the smartest people on the planet. And the reason why is because babies just do. They don't think. They don't deliberate. They just take action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say they don't think, because they do, but they don't think in a way that we can understand as an adult.
Yeah, they don't doubt.
Exactly. No. Whenever they want something, they go for it. And so one of the quotes that I'll leave you with is, I forgot who said this quote, and it was like, always remain childlike.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, best of luck to you and to the venture. It's been a privilege getting to know you a little bit, and
Definitely.
let's stay in touch. And maybe one day I'll be out on the West Coast, and you can make me do burpees.
Yeah, that's cool. Let me know. Whenever you out here, you got an open invitation, come through. We can go grab some food. We can do a workout, definitely.
Beautiful. All right, man. Take care, and thanks again.
All right. All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye. All right, time for thanks. Thanks to Will Ridenauer for allowing me to use his beautiful song Sabali Dawn, The Dance of Peace. You can find more of Will's music at his website, willridenauer.com. And of course, thanks to all of you Plant Yourself podcast patrons. Kim Harrison, Lynn McClellan, Anthony Disson, Brittany Porter, Dominic Maurer, Barbara Whitney, Tammy Black, Amy Good, Amanda Hatherley, Mary Jane Wheeler, Ellen Kennelly, Mr. Cobb, Rachel Behrens, Christine Nielsen, Tina Sharp, Tina Ahern, Jennifer Volkanovsky, David Bizek, The Mysterious, Michelle X, Elspeth Feldman, Leah Stoller, Alan Christensen, Colleen Peck, Michelle Landry, Josina, Sarah Durkis, Rhymes with Circus, Kelly Cameron, Wayne Pedersen, Janet Selby, hi Janet, Claire Adams, Tom Franzek, Jeanette Benham, Gil Lissert, David Donahue, Blair Cyber, Dorona Vizov, Gio and Carolyn Argentati, Jody Friesen, Ruth Ann Funderburg, Misha Rosen, Michael Warbeck, The Equally Mysterious, Tracy Z, Aviva Lael, Alicia Lemus, Rebecca Hughes, Val Linneman, Rhymes with Cinnamon, Nick Harper, Martha Bergner, Susan Ahmad, Nolly Levine, The Inscrutable Harry R., Susan Laverty, The Panda Vegan, Craig Kovic, Adam Sharp, Karen Burry, Heather Morgan, Kelly Machia, Deanne Norton, Bonnie Lynch at Plant Happy Oregon, Sabina Kurtzels, Nigel Davies, Marion Blum, Teresa Coble, Julian Watkins, Breed O'Connell, Shannon Hirschman, Linda Ayat, Holm Hedegaard, Izatu Zinwa, Connie Hainline, Aaron Greer, Alicia Davis, Heather O'Connor, Carolyn Jensen, Sherry Orlikoski of Plant Powered for Health, Karen Smith, Scott Morani, Karen Jo Crabtree, Tanya Lewis, Kirby Burton, Teresa Carell, Kevin McCauley, Elizabeth Rothschild, Ann Jesse, Cheryl Dwyer, Jenny Hazelton, Valerie Peltier, Peter W. Evans, Colleen Harrison, Justin Divich, Joshua Summermeyer, Dennis Bird, Darby Kelly, Lori Fanny, Linnea Lundquist, Valerie Hummel, Emily Iaconelli, Levy Wallach, Rosamund McAtee, Dan Picorni, Stephen Lehman, Patty DiMartino, Mike and Donna Kartz, Deanne Bishop, Bill Brielf, Gunter Schmidt, Marjorie Lewis, Kelly Molden, Trish Adams, Ian Kramer, Nancy Sheldon, Lindsay Bayshore, Gunmarie Hagan, Tracy Gulledge, Laura Heaton, Meg from Mama Says, Rochelle Kennedy, Diana Goldman, Stacey Stokes, Ben Savage, Michael Kay, Holly Butler, David Hughes, Connie Rogers, Claire England, Sally Robertson, Param Ganshi, Amy Daly, Brian Tourville, Mark Jeffrey Johnson, Josie Dempsey, Karen Schmidt, Pamela Hayden, Emily Perryman, Olga Sidorowska, Allison Corbett, Richard Stone, Lauren Vaught of Edible Musings, Aaron Hasty, Sean Owen, Sagar Nayak, Erica Piedra, Danielle Roberts, Michael Lushton, and Sarah Johnson for your generous support of the podcast. That's it for now. As always, be well, my friends.